So I had a conversation with a friend of mine today about the likelihood of a stock market crash coming pretty soon. I'm sure you've heard this somewhere. In the last couple of weeks alone, I've seen at least 3 different videos on YouTube with the same title. This is what happens before a stock market crash. So my friend asked for my prediction. When do I think the market crash is coming? And I told him I expected the crash way back in July, right? Because we've been waiting for this stock market crash for 3 years now. Every year since 2022, the market is gonna crash. Oh, there's gonna be a recession. We've been waiting for it since the pandemic. Now, he wanted to know when this crash would happen so that he could invest accordingly, right? But the truth is, we've already had the stock market crash. We've had at least 3 this year alone. We just had one last weekend thanks to the whole Trump-China rare minerals debacle. But despite that, the market is still at an all-time high. When you compare S&P 500 prices this year versus last year, it's still significantly higher. Now, anyone that panicked during any of the crashes we've had this year would have sold their stocks at a loss and probably only go back in after the market recovered. That's another reason why you don't try to time the market. The thing is this: people are waiting for a huge explosion like we had during the 2008 housing crisis, but what we've been seeing have mostly been market dips and recoveries. Here's the thing: I think people also conflate stock market crash with an economic recession. Those two things sometimes happen simultaneously, but a lot of times, most of the time, they don't. Everyone remembers the 2008 market crash because it coincided with an economic crisis. It coincided with the housing market bubble that crashed in the US at the time, and it affected a lot of Western countries. I was in Nigeria at the time, and we mostly watched the crisis on CNN. I mean, we did experience a stock market crash since a lot of the foreign investors pulled their funds from the Nigerian stock market. But what that did was it created an opportunity for amateur investors like me, who were just starting to invest at the time. And I could buy a lot of good companies, a lot of good stocks at cheap prices, which is also something you should do whenever there is a stock market crash. So the question is this: are we expecting another stock market crash that will coincide with an economic crisis? But before I answer that question, let me pose one to you. How will you know when there is an economic crisis? High inflation, unemployment, low wage growth, cost of living crisis. Does any of that ring a bell or sound familiar? I dare say we're already in an economic crisis. But the word crisis is scary, right? We are in an economic downturn because all these things are already happening. But as you will quickly find out from the example I gave in the 2008 crisis when we were watching it on TV, the impact of such a crisis depends less on what's going on around you and more on your own personal situation. Fact of the matter is this: I know we often feel like we need to change our investment strategy according to what's going on around us. But the truth is, you only need to change your investment strategy when your own personal situation changes. The world will continue to change. There will be bubbles, there will be crashes, there will be recessions and booms across different countries in the world, which is another reason why I personally like to diversify globally. But we should only actually review our strategy if our own lives, our own circumstances have changed. So, are you close to retirement or not? If you are not, I dare say you really don't have much to worry about if there's a market crash or not, because investing is for the long term. Chances are the stock market crash of today will be completely irrelevant by the time you retire. Do you have a steady income today? a steady job? Or are you looking at your investment as a source of revenue? That could determine if you want to diversify into dividend stocks or stay the path with purely growth stocks. As an immigrant, do you see yourself staying here for the long term, or you want to go back home in a few years? That could also determine if you want to invest in something more long term, like property, where you would need to get a mortgage and have to pay that over time, over decades. Or you stick with something that is easier to liquidate and move across borders, like a stock portfolio. None of these questions that I've asked have anything to do with a market crash. Again, they are more to do with your personal situation. So rather than worrying about the possibility of a market crash tomorrow, I would reassess my investment strategy, make sure it still aligns with my short-term situation and my long-term goals. And no matter what the market is doing, I'll continue to invest consistently. So, I hope you found that helpful and encouraging if you were panicking about the stock market crash. If you did, please like this video, leave a comment below, and I'll see you in the next one.